If I had $1 for every time my mom sighed dramatically while looking at me, I'd have been able to afford therapy for the entire cast of my life. I'm Eric, 16 at the time, cursed with floppy hair, B grades, and what my parents lovingly referred to as a lack of ambition. I wasn't into sports. I wasn't a math genius. I didn't play the cello. I just existed. And in the Montgomery family household, that was practically criminal. We lived in a 2-story suburbia special, beige siding, fake shutters, and a live laugh love sign that hung above our microwave like a sarcastic prophecy. My dad, Craig, was a man of few words, unless you counted passive-aggressive grunts during dinner. My mom, Diana, had the emotional warmth of a scented candle, flickering, fragrant, and completely incapable of real heat. They had expectations. Big ones. My older brother, Alan, had been the golden boy, captain of the swim team, AP student, now studying pre-law at an Ivy League school where he apparently grew a chin dimple and forgot how to answer texts. And me? I once got a participation ribbon in a high school poetry slam because I rhymed stress with mess. My mom pinned it to the fridge with a magnet that said, "At least you tried." That should set the scene. Now, the moment everything snapped? That came during what I thought was just another Thursday. I was halfway through a bowl of cereal, dry because apparently milk was for people who remembered to buy it, when I overheard my parents in the next room. "Just think it'll give us a fresh start," my mom whispered. "Someone who doesn't slam doors and complain about curfews," my dad added. There was a pause. "Someone who can actually make us proud." Then, my mother's voice dropped into that pitch she only used when she thought I couldn't hear her, the same tone she used when gossiping about neighbors. "Let's be honest. Eric has been a disappointment." I blinked. Spoon halfway to my mouth. The cereal flakes slid off and fell into my lap. They weren't talking about rehoming a dog. They were adopting a child. Another one. Because I wasn't enough. They actually wanted to reboot parenthood like I was Windows Vista and they were desperate for a Mac. Now, I wasn't naive. I knew they weren't thrilled with me. But I thought, stupidly, that I was still their kid. That we were just going through a rough patch. That maybe my lack of interest in cross-country or classical piano didn't make me irredeemable. But no. I was a glitch. A defective item. And they were looking for an upgrade. That night, I lay in bed staring at my popcorn ceiling, wondering what it felt like to be a kid worth keeping. Worth investing in. Worth something. The next few months were surreal. I started noticing little things. Boxes in the guest room. Brochures about international adoption on the kitchen table. Whispered calls about final approvals. And me? They didn't even bother to hide it anymore. My mom once told me, while rearranging the spice rack, "This next time, we'll do better." Like I was a Pinterest project that went off the rails. I remember laughing. Loudly. Then locking myself in the garage for an hour just to scream into a folded beach towel. By the time I turned 17, I had a plan. It wasn't a good plan. It involved a Craigslist roommate, a bus ticket, and a suitcase that squeaked like a broken accordion. But it was my plan. And it was freedom. When I left, no one stopped me. No dramatic goodbyes. No. "We'll misuse." My mom barely looked up from her tablet. My dad just muttered, "Keep in touch," which I think was more directed at his fantasy football league. The last thing I saw was a baby blanket draped over the couch, soft pink, with the name, Madison, stitched in cursive. Their new beginning. Their clean slate. Their replacement. I closed the door quietly. But in my chest? It slammed. The day I left, I had $182, a rolling suitcase with one working wheel, and a backpack that smelled vaguely like wet ramen noodles and spilled Dr. Pepper. My dreams were folded inside 2 pairs of jeans, a hoodie, and a spiral notebook with my old school schedule still tucked in the front flap. I moved into a studio apartment above a liquor store on the edge of town. My roommate, Sean, was a 26-year-old tattoo apprentice with a man bun, a collection of lizards, and a poster that said, "No regrets," misspelled. He was also one of the kindest human beings I'd ever met. "Rent's due on the 5th. he told me while feeding live crickets to his bearded dragon named Deborah. Also, the hot water screams sometimes. Just let it. And so, that was home. We had one pan, 2 mugs, and a single folding chair that we took turns using depending on who was having the worst day. I once sat on a milk crate for 8 hours finishing a paper on medieval trade routes, only for my laptop to crash before saving. I ate instant noodles while whispering threats to Microsoft Word like it could hear me. I started working wherever I could. A gas station night shift. Then mornings as a stock boy at a discount grocery store. I got good at pretending I didn't need sleep. Or food. Or affection. My social life consisted of awkward nods with regular customers and Deborah giving me judgmental side eyes when I microwaved hot dogs at 3 a.m. Most nights I fell asleep on a futon that had the structural support of a soggy cardboard box. Sometimes I dreamed that I was back home, my mom handing me a cup of coffee and saying, "We're proud of you." Then I'd wake up to a cold floor and the faint sound of Sean doing breathing exercises while listening to whale sounds. It was around month 3 of this routine when I hit what I now call my emotional clearance rack phase. My bank account dipped below $50, my GPA was clinging to life by its fingernails, and I had a breakdown in aisle 7 over a bag of frozen hash browns because it reminded me of Sunday breakfasts we never had. So I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I went to the library. Not because I wanted to be inspired. I went for the heat, the outlets, and the Wi-Fi that didn't require a password containing an ampersand and your social security number. But sitting in that dusty corner next to a flickering light bulb, I picked up a book on digital design. Then another on UI/UX. Then one on front-end development. And something clicked. Not right away. Not like a movie montage where the nerd discovers his power and suddenly has a six-pack and a Tesla. It was slow. Painfully slow. But it was mine. I started staying late at the library after my shift. Learned to code from borrowed books and free YouTube tutorials. Took on odd freelance gigs, making logos and fixing broken Shopify templates. I traded cigarettes for CSS. I'd pull 12-hour shifts at work and then spend 4 more learning how to build navigation menus that didn't self-destruct on mobile. There were nights I cried from stress, hunger, or pure exhaustion, and sometimes all 3. But every time I thought about quitting, I remembered that blanket on the couch back home. Madison. Stitched in pastel pink, like a Hallmark knife in my spine. They replaced me. So I built something that couldn't be replaced. By 19, I'd scraped together enough freelance work to ditch the gas station and launch a real online portfolio. I landed a contract with a local bakery chain to design their app. I even upgraded to an apartment where the stove didn't double as a space heater and the toilet flushed on the first try. The day I got my first $1,000 check from a legit client, I walked into the same grocery store I used to stock shelves at, bought 2 steaks and a bottle of red wine, and had a solo dinner on my balcony. No ramen. No Deborah. Just me, a folding chair, and the sunset. I didn't toast to my family. I toasted to the 17-year-old kid who left with nothing, and still chose to stay kind, keep learning, and keep going. That kid? He didn't disappear. He just started evolving. By 21, I had what could generously be called a life, one with a real coffee table, a decent mattress, and a landlord who only screamed twice a year. I was still doing freelance work, but the clients were getting bigger. And one of them, somehow, was a miracle in the shape of a random startup in Austin called Skyslope Tech. They'd found my portfolio through a Reddit thread about underrated designers, which is hilarious, because I didn't even post it. Some random dude I helped fix a PayPal widget shouted me out, and boom, a DM slid into my inbox. "Hey, love your site. We're scaling. Need someone to help us build out our client dashboard. Interested?" I thought it was a scam. I even Googled how to tell if a startup is fake. But the next thing I knew, I was on a video call with their co-founder, a guy in his early 30s with a man bun, glasses, and a mug that said, "Let's disrupt lunch." "You work fast," he said after my second draft mock-up. "And you think like an ops guy. You ever want to go full-time?" My hand twitched. Full-time? Like salary? Like benefits? Like dental? I said yes. Of course I said yes. Then I screamed into a pillow, tripped over my own shoes, and burned a grilled cheese from sheer excitement. It was perfect. Within 6 months, I was leading the front-end product team. Within a year, I had a team of 3 under me. By 23, I had a business card that didn't look like I printed it at Kinko's, and a calendar so full, my younger self would have assumed I got famous or arrested. I moved to the city, leased an apartment with actual square footage, and bought a desk that wasn't also a nightstand. I donated the hoodie I ran away into Goodwill, not out of drama, but because it smelled like stale dreams and sheep noodles. One day, I walked into a co-working event, the kind with kombucha taps and tech bros and Patagonia vests, and introduced myself as Eric Montgomery, head of UX at Skyslope Tech. The words felt strange in my mouth, like I'd borrowed them from a cooler version of me. But the woman beside me nodded like it was normal. She handed me her card and said, "We've heard good things. You're building something strong." That night, I sat in my car for 10 minutes just breathing. Because someone out there had heard of me. Not the me my parents dismissed. Not the quiet kid they shelved in favor of some adoptable future fantasy. But me, the version that stayed up late learning to build digital bridges while his family built walls. And then came the email. Subject line: Eric? 3 question marks. Like an awkward middle school text. It was from my mother. The message? "Hi honey. Hope you're well. Your dad and I were just talking about you. It's been forever. Funny thing, we saw your name in a business journal this week. Looks like you're doing big things. Would love to catch up. Are you free this weekend? Madison's in town too, smiley face." I read it twice. Then laughed so hard I nearly fell off my ergonomic chair. Because of course, the first time they reached out in years was after seeing my name in a glossy magazine. Not when I got my GD. Not when I landed my first real job. Not when I launched my team. But now that I was worth mentioning at dinner parties? Now they cared. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because I finally wasn't. I didn't answer the email. Not that weekend. Not the next one. I left it unread like a ghost in my inbox, a little haunting reminder that I was finally living a life they didn't get to narrate. But apparently, leaving them on read wasn't enough. Because they showed up. At my office. On a Wednesday. Now, a bit of context here. My office isn't some downtown glass tower. It's a slick, open layout building in a renovated warehouse district. Think exposed brick, fancy light fixtures, and chairs that are ergonomic, but still murder your spine if you sit for longer than 40 minutes. We don't have a receptionist, we have a community experience coordinator named Gabe who wears rings on every finger and thinks oat milk is a personality trait. So when Gabe popped his head into our meeting room and whispered, "Hey, Eric? There's a woman here who says she's your mother," I thought he was joking. Until I saw the shoes. Low bay heels. Exactly the kind Diana Montgomery would wear to make it look like she dressed down for something. And behind her? Craig Montgomery. Holding a manila folder like he thought it would shield him from judgment. And then, like a cherry on top of a sundae no one ordered, there was Madison. She must have been around 13, with long blonde hair, wireless earbuds, and a hoodie that said, "Trust no one." At least she had irony on her side. "Eric!" My mom beamed like this was a surprise birthday party and not a hostile act of corporate trespassing. "Sweetheart, you look wonderful." I stood frozen in the doorway, every neuron in my body screaming what the hell is happening. My team peeked out from the meeting room, silent as stunned meerkats. My mom leaned in like she expected a hug. I didn't move. My dad offered a stiff smile. "We were in the area." "Sure." Because suburban parents often happen to be in the area of a startup office they haven't seen in 7 years. "Can we talk?" my mom asked. Right there, in front of everyone. Like this was a family brunch and not a workplace where I had a meeting in 5 minutes with the dev team on deadline. I stared at them. Then turned to Gabe. "Hey," I said calmly. "Can you call building security?" Diana blinked. "Excuse me? I'm working," I said. "You didn't call. You didn't ask. You just showed up." Craig's face darkened. We're your parents. Exactly, I said. And that hasn't meant anything in a long time. Gabe, to his credit, handled it like a pro. He didn't yell. Didn't make a scene. Just walked over, hands clasped like a neutral monk, and said, Sorry, folks. This is a secure floor. If you don't have a visitor badge, I'm going to have to escort you out. My mother looked like she'd swallowed a lemon whole. You'd really do this? She whispered, voice cracking just a bit. To your family? I met her eyes, and in the clearest, steadiest voice I'd ever used with her said, I'm not doing this to my family. I'm doing it to the people who decided I wasn't worth keeping. Craig looked like he wanted to argue, but didn't. Gabe motioned toward the elevator. Madison didn't say a word. She just looked at me, this weird, unreadable expression on her face, and followed them silently as they disappeared behind the glass doors. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was just final. The moment the doors closed, I turned around and walked back into the conference room like nothing happened. Sorry, I told the team. Family. You know how it is. They nodded slowly. No one said a word. But someone, I still don't know who, dropped a chocolate bar on my desk later that day. No note. Just chocolate. Honestly? Better than flowers. 3 days passed. No emails. No texts. No sudden knocks at the office door. For a second, I thought they might have actually gotten the message, the kind you don't write, but deliver with a firm, Please escort these people out. Then, Friday afternoon, I got a notification from the front desk at my building. A package. No return address. Just my name, cleanly typed on a label stuck to a thin manila envelope. For a half-second, I thought, maybe it's a cease and desist. Maybe they're suing me for emotional damages because I hurt their feelings with my existence. But when I opened it, it wasn't legal drama. It was a letter. Not typed, handwritten. In messy blue ink. The handwriting didn't look familiar. It wasn't my mom's script, or my dad's rigid block caps. It was from Madison. The girl who'd replaced me. Dear Eric. I don't know if I should be writing this, but I found your name online and then I saw what happened at your office. I just wanted to say, I didn't know. I didn't know they had another son. They never talked about you. It was always just, our first attempt didn't work out. Like you were some starter plant that died before they figured out how to water it. I didn't even learn your name until last year, when I found a box in the garage with your high school notebooks and a picture of you on a bike. I asked them who you were and they just said, It's complicated. I guess this is my way of saying, I'm sorry. Not for what they did, I wasn't there, but because I can tell that what they did was wrong. Also, that hoodie you donated? I wear it sometimes. I don't know why I'm telling you that. Maybe because it still smells like sadness and cinnamon. Anyway, you don't have to write back. But I just wanted you to know, you weren't a ghost. They tried to erase you. But you're still here. Madison. P.S. I liked your article in the Tech Journal. It was the first time I saw someone in our family do something real. I sat there staring at the letter for a long time. Long enough for my coffee to go cold. Long enough to hear the hum of the office around me fade into white noise. Because for the first time, someone in that house, the house that discarded me, had acknowledged what happened. No gaslighting. No. We were trying our best. Just I see you. I tucked the letter back into the envelope, gently, like it was something fragile. Then I went home and pulled out a box I hadn't touched in years. Inside were the scraps of my old life, half-written poems, a cracked iPod, a birthday card from my aunt, and a post-it note from Sean that read, Don't let them define you, man. Beneath it all? A printed photo of me at 14, holding a trophy from a junior robotics meet. I remembered that day clearly. My mom didn't show. Dad texted, Don't let it go to your head. That photo was the last time I smiled with my full face before learning what disappointment looked like from across the dinner table. I pulled out one of my old sketchbooks and started drawing. Not wireframes. Not product interfaces. But the house. The one I left. I drew it once. Then again. Then once more, but this time, I drew myself standing outside it. Not trying to get in. Just walking past. Like someone who finally understood the most powerful kind of closure isn't loud or cruel. It's quiet. It's choosing not to knock. I thought about replying to Madison. I even opened my email. Typed her name. Stared at the blinking cursor for 15 full seconds. Then I closed the tab. Not out of spite. Out of peace. Because sometimes the greatest kindness isn't re-entering the mess to explain your side, it's letting someone else sit with the silence and figure it out themselves. She reached out. She saw me. That was enough. It was almost funny how quiet life got after the letter. For the first time in what felt like years, no one from my past was trying to crash through the present. No surprise emails. No envelope bombs disguised as apologies. Just normalcy. Peace. It felt unnatural. Until it didn't. Skyslope Tech kept growing. I got promoted, again, and our team moved into a bigger office, this time with real plants and a coffee machine that didn't hiss like an angry cat. My name went up on the internal org chart as Director of UX Strategy. And someone made a meme about me during our town hall presentation. It was awful. I saved it. I thought the story was done. Wrapped up. Closed. But one day, as I was walking out of the building, earbuds in, brain mush after 6 hours of Zoom meetings and one very enthusiastic Slack channel, I saw someone waiting by the front steps. It was my dad. Alone this time. No folder. No wife. No preteen buffer. Just him, in a polo shirt tucked into khakis like time hadn't moved since 2009. I stopped, halfway between the sidewalk and the parking lot. He raised a hand in a lazy wave. Hey. I pulled out one earbud. Hey. He looked older. Not just in the gray hair way. In the way people look when they realize they no longer have control over how they're remembered. I came to apologize, he said. I blinked. That was new. He cleared his throat. I shouldn't have let things go the way they did. I should have said something. Done something. I didn't know how bad it had gotten. I tilted my head. You didn't know you told your son he was a disappointment and adopted someone else instead? A flinch. Subtle, but there. She was Diana's idea. There it was. The classic Montgomery pass the blame move. I smiled. Sure. And you just nodded along for 17 years. Silence. He looked around like someone would rescue him from this conversation. But there was no one else. Just the hum of traffic and a pigeon walking in very confident circles. I just wanted to make things right. He said. You can't. I replied, but gently. Not to sting. Just to state fact. You can't unpick a lock you broke off years ago. He shifted his weight, searching for the version of me that used to back down. The version that would have cracked at any sign of attention. Madison reached out. He said, trying a different route. I know. She told us what you said. What you did. She wrote to me. I corrected. Not you. He nodded slowly. And then, God bless him, he said. She's confused. That did it. I laughed. Not a bitter laugh. A real one. Right. Because it couldn't possibly be that your daughter, the one you raised to replace me, figured out who you really are. His jaw tensed. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. We stood there for a while, like two statues at a standoff. Then he tried again. We're still your parents. No, I said. You're just people I used to know. And I'm not 17 anymore. Another silence. He opened his mouth to speak again, but I beat him to it. I have a team to lead, I said. A life to get back to. One I built without you. He nodded. Slowly. Like a man signing off on his own failure. Take care, Eric. You too, Craig. I turned and walked to my car. Didn't look back. Didn't check if he waited. Just got in, started the engine, and drove away like it was any other Tuesday. Because it was. Later that night, I ordered takeout, kicked off my shoes, and flopped onto the couch, my couch, in my apartment, filled with art and plants and reminders of who I'd become. I framed Madison's letter and hung it near the front door. And on the desk in my office, I left a sticky note that read, "I was never the disappointment. I was the test they failed." No one else needed to see it. Just me. 2 years passed. Quietly. Peacefully. I kept building. Not just apps and interfaces, but a life that didn't require anyone else's permission to feel real. I bought a condo downtown. Started volunteering on weekends, mentoring teens who thought they'd already missed their shot. Spoiler, they hadn't. The hoodie I left home and now hung on my wall, not as a shrine, just a reminder. Of where I started. Of who I became. And then, out of nowhere, I got a message. Not from my parents. From Madison. It was short. "Hey. Hope this isn't weird. I'm applying to a summer program in your city. It's for digital design. Thought you might know someone. If not, no pressure. Just figured I'd ask." I stared at the message for a good 10 minutes, trying to figure out if this was another test, another emotional trap. But it didn't feel like one. It felt honest. Simple. Human. So I replied, "What's the program?" She sent me the link. It was legit. Prestigious, even. And very competitive. "Portfolio's not great," she added. "Mom and Dad think it's a phase." That made me pause. Because I remembered that line. They'd said the same thing about me when I showed interest in anything that didn't involve a blazer or a resume template. "Don't waste your energy," my mom once said. "What design? That's just playing online." Now they were saying it again, just to someone new. I made a call. The program's coordinator, Alex, had spoken at a UX summit I attended. We weren't close, but we'd talked tech over cocktails once, and I'd sent her a beta invite to one of our side projects. "Got a promising applicant," I told her. "No connections, but real grit. Trust me, worth watching." She laughed. "That's all I need. I'll keep an eye out." 2 weeks later, Madison texted me again. "I got in." I think I screamed. "Thank you. Also, please don't tell anyone you helped. I want to earn this." I smiled at my screen for a long time. She didn't want a handout. She just wanted a shot. The same thing I'd wanted, once. We met for coffee when she moved into her dorm. She was taller than I remembered. Still had the hoodie. Still wore her hair in that loose braid that said, "I rolled out of bed but I cared just enough." "Don't expect a hug," she warned when we met. "Trust me," I said. "My default setting is no touching." We talked for an hour. About the program. About our weird family. About how weird it was that we were even sitting together. "They still don't talk about you," she said. "But I bring you up sometimes. I think it pisses them off." I snorted. "Good. Stir the pot. Craig still insists you were the one who left." "I did," I said. "That doesn't mean I was wrong." She nodded. Stirred her coffee. Then asked quietly, "Do you hate them?" I paused. Thought about it. "No," I said. "I just stopped needing them." That was the difference. Hate clings. But peace? Peace walks away. We sat in silence after that. A comfortable one. The kind you earn. Then I paid for her coffee and told her to go wreck that summer program. As she left, she tossed me a look over her shoulder. "You know," she said, "they always said you were a disappointment. But maybe that's because you were the first one who refused to become them." I didn't reply. Didn't need to. She walked off. And for the first time, I realized something. They hadn't replaced me. They'd just delayed meeting the version of me who couldn't be erased. 6 months later, I got a LinkedIn notification that nearly made me spit coffee on my keyboard. "Craig Montgomery has viewed your profile." Of course he had. The same week my startup launched its biggest update yet, the same week my face showed up on Tech Insider's Top 30 UX Leaders Under 30 list, and the same week my team's new app hit 100K users. He was probably scrolling in disbelief, wondering how the disappointment got here without his coaching, funding, or unsolicited advice on personal branding. I ignored the notification. But something interesting happened a week after that. I got an email from a former teacher, Mr. Valenti, high school computer science. The guy who once called my JavaScript accidentally poetic, and got mocked by the principal for suggesting I had potential. He'd retired recently. But now, he was teaching part-time coding classes at the local rec center for underprivileged teens. And he had a question. Heard about your journey from a former student. Would you ever consider speaking to the class? Just one session. Your story, it matters. I almost said no. Then I thought about the hoodie, the attic box, the frozen hash browns, the broken folding chair, and Deborah the lizard. I said yes. 2 weeks later, I was standing in front of 15 teenagers with varying levels of skepticism, curiosity, and TikTok addiction. One kid asked if I drove a Lambo. I said no, but my car had Bluetooth and that felt like a win. We didn't talk about success. We talked about failure. About staying. About how you don't need your name spoken at the family dinner table to make it count in the world. After the session, a girl came up and whispered, "My parents don't get me either. But I think I still might get somewhere." I gave her my business card. Not because I'm important, but because she is. Later that night, I walked home through the city, hoodie zipped, wind cutting sideways through the buildings, and I passed a bookstore I used to avoid because they once kicked me out for reading graphic novels too long without buying. But this time, something caught my eye in the window. It was a display table. Books on self-worth. Memoirs. And right there in the middle, a hardcover with bold lettering. The Echo Effect, Building What They Said You Couldn't. My book. I didn't think they'd actually go through with the full print run. But there it was, a real thing. With pages. And a barcode. And a blurb from someone who once laughed at my resume because it didn't have enough edge. I stepped inside. Bought the first copy. The cashier smiled. "Author shares your name." I smiled back. "Yeah. Weird coincidence." I took the book home, set it on my shelf, and sent one person a copy. Madison. Inside I wrote. "They told me I was in error. I turned it into a blueprint." No reply came. Not right away. But I didn't need one. Sometimes you don't need revenge. You just need receipts. And I had them. In ink. On paper. On shelves. In my apartment. In my piece. And in the look on their faces the day they showed up, expecting weakness, and got security. They replaced me with a stranger. But I rewrote the ending with my own name in bold. And this time? No one gets to skip the reading.